Dogs. The word hung in the frozen air of our alcove, colder and sharper than any bayonet. A German patrol could be fooled by shadow. A tank crew's vision was limited by a narrow slit of steel. But a dog's nose reads the world in ways we can't comprehend. It reads fear, it reads footprints, it reads the very story of our recent desperation left lingering in the air. Ivan's report wasn't just a warning. It was a death sentence delivered on the wind, the execution time rapidly approaching. The flicker of hope we'd nurtured moments before was snuffed out. There was no more time for debate, no more weighing grim options between bad and worse. All other paths had vanished. There was only the culvert, only the desperate, terrifying path forward into the unknown. "No more waiting," I said, my voice cutting through the sudden pall of dread. It was low, but I forced a steel into it I did not feel. My men were looking at me, their faces stark and pale in the gloom. I saw fear in Pyotr's wide eyes, grim acceptance in Vasily's set jaw, and a hunter's fatalistic calm in Ivan's. They needed a leader, not another frightened soldier. We go, now. My gaze fell on Dmitri, his shallow breaths misting in the air. "Pyotr, give him whatever you have for the pain, anything to keep him quiet. We can't afford a single sound, not one cry." Pyotr, his face pale, but his hands surprisingly steady, nodded. He rummaged in his medical bag, his movements precise despite the urgency. He produced a small flat tin. Inside, nestled in cotton wool, were glass syrettes of morphine. A precious, life-saving resource, but also a dangerous one. Too much, and Dmitri might stop breathing in that narrow pipe. Too little, and the jolt of agony could betray us all to the snarling hounds. Pyotr broke the seal and prepared the needle with a concentration that blocked out the entire war for a moment. He administered the shot into Dmitri's thigh, his touch gentle, a terrible mercy. "The plan is simple, because it has to be," I continued, making eye contact with each man. "Vasily, you go first, you and the Degtyaryov. It will be hell getting that gun through, but we need it on the other side, ready to fire. Secure the exit. Ivan, you are our rear guard. You come last. Your rifle will be the last sound they hear from this ravine. Make sure we are not followed into that pipe. Pyotr, you and I will handle Dmitri. We will be the meat in this steel and concrete sandwich." Vasily, ever the pragmatist, simply grunted his assent, already checking the pan on his DP-28 and slinging the spare drums over his shoulder. Ivan gave a single, slow nod, his gaze already distant, calculating angles and timing, his mind preparing for the lonely, terrifying job of being the last man out. But first, there was one last piece of this broken puzzle I had to retrieve. "I'm going for my gun," I stated. "I'm not going through there with just a pistol. Cover me." "Sergeant, there is no time," Vasily protested, his voice a low, urgent growl. "Listen, the dogs, they are closer." He was right. The sound was clearer now. Not just barking, but the excited yelps of a chase. "I am faster alone, and I know exactly where it is. It will take 2 minutes, no more," I snapped back, a harshness in my tone that surprised even me. "I will not be the disarmed sergeant. We will need every weapon we have when we come out of that hole. Now go, move to the culvert entrance. get ready." Without waiting for another argument, I scrambled out of the alcove, my heart hammering against my ribs. I ran, crouched low, back towards the spot where I had tumbled into the ravine. Every step was a gamble. The snow was deeper here, slowing me down. I felt naked, exposed. I imagined a German sniper on the rim above, drawing a bead on my back. I pictured the dogs, lean, powerful Alsatians, bursting around the bend. I could hear them now, without question. A frantic, excited baying that echoed off the ravine walls, magnifying the sound, making it seem as if they were coming from all directions at once. They had found our tracks at the ravine edge. They were coming down. I reached the snowdrift and began to claw at it, my bare hands instantly numb. The cold was a physical pain, a fire that burned my fingertips. But the fear was worse, a cold that seeped into my very bones. I dug like a madman, flinging snow aside. Panic began to claw at my throat. I was wasting seconds, precious, irreplaceable seconds. My men were waiting, exposed. Just as I was about to give up, to accept this bitter failure, my frozen fingers brushed against something hard and cold. Metal. I dug with a renewed, desperate frenzy and pulled it free. The wooden stock, the perforated barrel shroud, the iconic drum magazine, my PPSH-41. It was caked in snow and mud, a frozen, ugly lump. But it was solid. It was real. I dropped to one knee, shielded by the drift, and worked the bolt. It was stiff, protesting the ice and grime. I slammed it back, once, twice. On the third try, it moved smoothly. The metallic schlack-schlack was the most beautiful sound in the world. Relief, fierce and overwhelming, flooded through me. I scrambled back, my recovered submachine gun clutched like a holy relic. As I rounded the corner to the culvert, the scene was one of quiet, desperate struggle. Vasily was already half jammed in the mouth of the pipe, wrestling with the DP-28. The long barrel was in, but the wide pan magazine kept snagging on the rough concrete lip. He was cursing under his breath, his face red with exertion. Pyotr was beside Dmitri, whose body was now limp, his eyes half closed, the morphine clearly taking its potent hold. "They are coming, Sergeant," Ivan said, his voice flat, calm as a frozen lake. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking back up the ravine, listening. The sound of the dogs was deafening now, a wall of noise, and with it a new sound, a man's voice shouting a sharp command in German. "Vasily, go! Leave the damned thing if you must!" With a final, furious grunt of exertion, Vasily twisted the gun and it slid through. He immediately began to worm his way in after it, his broad back filling the entire space. It was a slow, agonizing process. For a full, terrible minute, he was a helpless, struggling plug in our only escape route. The moment he was clear, I turned to Pyotr. "All right, our turn." Getting Dmitri to the opening was a nightmare. He was dead weight. We couldn't carry him. We had to drag him, keeping him low, his head lolling. Ivan helped, his immense strength making the grim task possible. We positioned him at the mouth of the pipe. "Head first," I instructed Pyotr. "I'll push from here. Vasily will have to pull on the other side. You go in backwards, guide his head, make sure he can breathe." Pyotr, his face a mask of terrified concentration, obeyed without a word. Then, with Ivan and me pushing, we began to slowly, carefully feed Dimitri's unconscious body into the tomb of concrete. His shoulder scraped, a button on his coat snagged, and I had to reach in and rip it free. Every inch was a brutal struggle. The barking stopped. For a heart-stopping second, there was silence. Then a single, deep-throated roar from a dog, followed by the crash of a body through undergrowth. They were here, just around the bend. "They're here," Ivan said, his voice unchanging. He raised his Mosin Nagant. "Go, Ivan, get in!" I yelled, giving Dimitri's legs one final desperate shove. "Not yet," he said, his eyes fixed on the bend. "Go, Sergeant, I will follow." He was buying me seconds, my life. I didn't argue. I threw myself into the pipe, the rough concrete tearing at my knees, the smell of damp earth and fear thick in my throat. I pushed at Dimitri's boots, inching him forward through the suffocating darkness. Ahead, I could hear Pyotr's strained grunts and the faint scraping sound of Vasily on the other end, pulling. Behind me, at the entrance to our sanctuary, I heard a single, sharp crack, the unmistakable report of Ivan's Mosin Nagant. A dog yelped, a high, pained sound, immediately drowned out by a frenzy of enraged barking and a shouted German curse. Then, a second later, another shot from the Mosin. "Ivan!" I screamed back into the darkness, my voice muffled by the pipe. A moment later, his legs appeared, scrambling into the pipe. The darkness behind him was abruptly filled with the most terrifying sound I have ever heard. The lead dog was at the entrance, its barks turning into furious, frustrated growls as it clawed at the concrete. I felt Ivan's boots push past me as he wormed his way deeper. He had made it. All of us. We were in. The pipe was our world now, an utter, complete blackness, filled with the sound of our own ragged breathing, the scraping of our bodies against rough concrete, and the maddening sound of the German dogs barking and clawing at the entrance behind us. We had escaped the open jaws of the ravine, only to be buried alive, with the wolves of the Reich howling at our tombstone.